I'll take you away from the beach because most of the others will be talking about the beach. We're up on the eastern side of the railway line, so the railway line actually runs along the western boundary of the park. Yeah, I've been involved with that for nearly 10 years now. We moved into the area 10 years ago and probably joined the Friends group about 9 years ago. It's a great little park. It's probably the smallest conservation park in the state. But the beauty of it is that it's a conservation park right here in the city, and so you don't have to get in your car and drive for hours to find a conservation park somewhere way out in the country. This one's right here on your doorstep. It's a marvellous little park in that it's got some of the best views of the Adelaide coastline that you could possibly get in this city. If you're sitting up on the hill there by the lighthouse, looking down the coast, you can actually see the city as well, but the view from sort of Kingston Park right down to Outer Harbour is quite magnificent. So we look down on the beaches. We don't actually get down into the beaches quite so much. Look, it's a pretty special time in the park right now because we were lucky to get a significant amount of funding from both state and federal governments. And so at the moment there's some major upgrades going on. The car park's just been resurfaced and redeveloped, so it's a much better car park than it used to be. The Friends group has developed a botanical trail through the park, and at the moment there's some major upgrades going on that trail. So if you were to go for a walk in the park in the next week or so, you probably run into the machinery that's doing that work, but that'll be finished by the end of October. And that'll certainly make the trail much more accessible, particularly for people who might have physical disabilities. It'll allow for access on wheelchairs and things like that. And also they're developing a bit of a viewing area over on the western side of the park so that you can actually sit there and look out over the heath. And the heath is quite special vegetation. Marino Conservation Park is the last remaining intact patch of native heath vegetation in the whole of the metropolitan area, and that's vegetation that would have once upon a time been all the way along the coast, but of course with the housing and developments like that, most of it's gone. But it's quite a special time, and this time of the year is even better because a lot of the flowers of the different sorts of species in the park are often showing at this time of the year. We've probably got about 130 different sorts of plants in the park. About 50 of them are of conservation significance, and some of them quite rare. The heath, people can't walk down into the heath, but we are trying to propagate a lot of the plants that you would find in the heath and then plant them along the trail so that people that go for a walk in the park can see these plants as they walk around. It's quite a short walk, about 1 kilometre and a bit. Quite a gentle walk, takes you up to the lighthouse and then back down to the car park. It's surprising how many people who live in the area, some people have lived here for sort of 30 years, they tell me, and for the first time they've been up to the park just sort of recently, particularly I suppose with COVID-19, more and more people are getting out and doing those sorts of things. But it's a park that's well worth going and having a look at. What else did I want to say? It was proclaimed a conservation park back in 1899, mainly because it is the coastal heath that's quite significant there, but also there's a particular wattle, Acacia victoriae, or elegant wattle, that grows there, and it's the most southerly extent of that wattle, so it's one that you'd find a lot more going further north in the state, but and at some times of the year, just recently, it's in full flower, and it's quite a picture, obviously. We have a friends group that meets several times a month. On the first and third Thursdays we meet, and on the last Sunday we meet, usually in the mornings from about 9 till 12. We're always looking for anyone new that would like to come along and join us. A lot of the work that we do there is in sort of weed management, as other people have said. If you manage the weeds, then it gives the native plants a much better chance of regenerating, and we're seeing a lot of natural regeneration happening now as a consequence of the work that the volunteers have done over the years. And that's, I personally, and I think the other members of the group, get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing that happening. You know, you get down and weeding isn't as bad as people might think. You know, you get down to start digging out the weeds, and suddenly you see a little plant here and a little plant there, a native one that's sort of just starting out its journey, and people get quite excited about that, to sort of see how many of the plant. You've got to get down on your hands and knees to actually see these things quite often when they're just starting out. But people really enjoy that. We've got a group of about 20 people, and probably some 15 of them turn up for most of the bush care days. And as I said, if you want to get involved, you could either come along on those days. We've got a website. I think the website is communitywebs.org/Friends Marino CP for Conservation Park, just CP. But if you Googled Marino Conservation Park, I'm sure you'll probably find that website, and that's got a fair bit of information on it as well. So that's probably enough said from me. Just gives you a bit of a picture of what the park's like, and I'd certainly urge you to come along and have a look. It's a well worth, great experience.